Our guest tonight is WWE Hall of Famer and wrestling legend Hacksaw Jim Duggan. How you doing tonight?
Good, good, guys. Nice to talk to you today.
We really appreciate your time. And listen, the biggest news in a couple months was the announcement that you would be working with Global Force Wrestling. What do you feel GFW has to offer the wrestling industry, and what role will you be playing in the growth of the brand?
I think Global Force Wrestling is offering an alternative of what the product is on TV today. I think a lot of folks are tired of the show that's on and are looking for something different. And I think Global Force is going to do that. They're going to be a family-friendly organization, no obscene gestures, no profanity, kind of show like wrestling used to be, one they can bring kids to and have a good time. My role is flexible at this time. I'm sure they have me doing all kinds of things, so I'm excited to hook up with Jeff. I've known him for quite a while, and I'm happy to be part of Global Force.
Brandon Galvin first.
Your association with GFW is huge for a growing company, but is there something new or different that you would like to see GFW do to separate it from WWE, TNA, Ring of Honor, and the other top promotions, especially since it is going in the PG route?
Well, I think that will be something different. I think people are hungry for a PG type of programming. I think everybody's tired of pushing the envelope. The sex, the graphic violence. I mean, I think people want the traditional type show. I think that's why my generation of guys, myself, Jake the Snake Roberts, Junkyard Dog, Macho Man Savage, that era, people are hungry for that again. I think that's Global Force is going to give them.
Mike Chiari?
Well, you're synonymous not only with being one of the biggest supporters of the United States in the history of wrestling, but also your signature 2x4. So I was wondering, how did the idea to start carrying the 2x4 first come about? And also, what was the significance of it when you decided to make it such a big part of your character?
Well, it started early in my early days, right after I started off as Big Jim Duggan with short hair and clean shaven. I broke in Texas with Fritz Von Erich down in Dallas, Texas, where I played my college football with Southern Methodist. But I evolved. I went from Big Jim to the convict, where I wore a mask over in Hawaii, working for Peter Maivia, the High Chief. I came back. I still didn't know what I was doing. I went from Georgia Championship Wrestling to the Pensacola territory, where I was Wild Man Duggan. I had a fur with chains on it, and I grew my beard real bushy. And of course, that didn't work. But I had an opportunity to go to Southwest Championship Wrestling with Joe Blanchard, Kelly Blanchard's dad, and work with Bruiser Brody and Buck Robley, who I had met at Georgia Championship Wrestling. And that's where I evolved into Hacksaw. And, of course, I was a heel down there in Texas, and it was a very rough atmosphere long before the sports entertainment kind of stuff, where they had a waiver. If you wanted to try us, you could sign the waiver. You come up in the ring with us, and we show you if it's real or not. We used to have some really thick fights out there in the ring. But anyway, just getting back and forth from the ring was a challenge. The people would spit on you, they'd kick you, and they'd punch you. And I was sitting back in the dressing room all covered with loogies and bruises from the fans. And Brody came in. He says, Duggan, if you carry something to the ring, carry something you can use. Forget those feathered boas and sequin robes. And I'm like, well, shoot, here's a piece of wood. And I came out yelling with that 2x4. I came out yelling. It was like parting the Red Sea. The people scattered. I got back and forth to the ring without a problem, and been carrying it ever since. And it's turned out to be a great gimmick for me.
Well, many younger fans were not able to see you in the prime of your career, as you just mentioned, but they were able to see you as one of the stars in WWE's Legends House. As a huge fan of the show myself, what was the experience like for you, and how much recognition have you received due to your appearances on that show?
I think Legend House has given us all, myself, Piper, Hillbilly Jim, Jimmy Hart, the whole household, a little more, for sure, being on TV again kind of brings you back into people's minds. And, of course, the whole network helps bring, the first Royal Rumble, a lot of the other stuff from the different libraries, from the different territories I've worked. So it's like anything. The longer you're off TV, the more steam you lose. So something like Legend House was great to be part of. Not only did I have a good time and get back out in front of the people and get my name going again, but also met one of my best friends of my life. So it was a good time for me.
Mike Chiari?
You're a huge part of wrestling history for many reasons, obviously, but one of the biggest is the fact that you won the very first Royal Rumble in 1988. When you were first told about that match and what it entailed, what were your initial impressions of it? And also, are you at all surprised by how big of a phenomenon it's become over the years?
I think everybody is pretty surprised, not just in the Royal Rumble and what a success that has become, but wrestling in general. I don't think anybody back in the day could see it becoming a worldwide phenomenon that has become. I do a lot of charity golf tournaments for the NFL guys in Major League Baseball, and I always ask them, I'm like, world champions, where in the world have you guys been, you know? With wrestling, I've wrestled in every state in the Union, every province in Canada, in 30 different countries. It's amazing appeal. So I had no idea where the the business would go, much less the Royal Rumble. And of course, looking back at it, it's one of the biggest feathers in my cap. So remember that Royal Rumble win, which was instrumental in my career.
BG?
We're big fans of legends being used in today's product, but what do you feel is the best way a company can use legends of the business?
Well, I think that you probably use them in a lot of different ways. I think association is always good when you have some of your younger guys coming in and you want to associate them with your more established old timers or legends, as you call. But I think what happens is a lot, which they did with me at WWE. You know, I was at the WWF during the heyday. I went to WCW, but then later in my career, I signed a talent contract and came back and wrestled with WWE. So I wrestled DiBiase's kid, Orton's kid, Dusty's kid. You know, I beat up the old man, then I beat up the kid. You know, it was just exciting to be able to come back like that and realize how big the business has become.
Oh, we recently talked to former WCW star Vampiro about his time in WCW, and he claimed it was one of the worst periods of his life. As someone who's spent years with the company, what are your fondest memories of WCW, and what was it like being there as the company was starting to go under?
Well, you know what? At the beginning, it was great. I really enjoyed coming in with WCW because that revolutionized the business. Ted Turner decided to give contracts to guys, and that was a motivating factor for myself and a lot of other guys to leave WWF at the time, which did not have contracts. If you work, you got paid. If you didn't work, you didn't get paid. So Turner offered no cut contracts, so many of us went down there. And in the beginning, it was a great time. We took a show that was being shot at center stage with maybe 30 or 40 people in the arena into up to the Monday Night Wars. I had a great time in the beginning. Towards the end, of course, I had a lot of trouble with Vince Russo. You know, first of all, they were trying to push me out of my contract. They wanted me to quit. So first they made me the janitor of the WCW. And they're like, well, you have to wear a janitor suit. I'm like, well, that's cool. You know, and they're like, well, you're going to have to clean Vince Russo's toilet with a toothbrush for a vignette. I'm like, even better, you know. When the same time to clean the toilet, you know, I poured a Diet Coke into the toilet, and instead of standing back, you know, trying to scrub the toilet with a toothbrush kind of half-heartedly, I'm in there, I got water in my hair, my head to the toilet, oh, I'm cleaning the toilet, come try, oh. And I made the spot work, you know, it got over, and of course, they weren't real happy with that, so they flew me back up to Atlanta in another big meeting, and where Russo told me that I was going to turn against America, you know, and I've been carrying the American flag for 30 plus years now. I mean, ever since I was with DiBiase and Matt Bourne in Louisiana, and when DiBiase hooked up with Skandar Akbar against America, I started carrying the flag and been carrying it ever since. So I was wondering what they were going to do when they're like, well, you're going to be part of Team Canada. I'm like, well, you know, that's not a whole lot of heat there with people from Canada, thank goodness. But and they teamed me up with Lance Storm and Major Guns and Hugh Morris and stuff. And again, I was with Lance Storm, who was a great technical wrestler, but not the most colorful guy in the world. And he was standing in the ring saying, "Can I please have everyone's attention?" And I'm behind them being a hacksaw, stomping around and yelling and screaming and doing my deal. And so they're like, "Well, Hacksaw, you want to turn your stuff down? We want to push the young guy, And I'm like, "Turn my stuff down. Tell the young guy to turn his stuff up. This is the big leagues."
Mike Chiari?
Yeah, well, one of the biggest running jokes when it comes to WCW is that pretty much everyone and their mother at some point joined the NWO, but you were one of the few who didn't. So I was wondering, why did you decide against ever joining the group, or why did it never come to fruition? And also, do you feel like maybe the NWO getting too big and powerful could have been a contributing factor into WCW's demise ultimately?
I think art imitated life there, where with the click and the finger kiss and all that kind of stuff. That's just not Hacksaw Jim Duggan. I'm not going to hook up with Scott Hall and Diesel and do finger kisses in the ring and be part of that clique. It just wasn't my character. It was not my personality. And I think that's why, it may have hurt some days, but, I've been Hacksaw and doing my own deal for many, many years. So, but I also agree with you that they involved way too many guys into the NWO. They had a unique club, especially with the Hulkster, Kern and Heel. I think they just rode a good horse to death there. They had a good thing going and they killed it.
BG, final question?
Well, we mentioned the Royal Rumble earlier, and is there a match or performance from your time with WWE that you're most proud of?
Yeah, the thing that sticks out most in my mind of, growing up in a small town in upstate New York, my dad, when I was a kid, would take me down to the NIT basketball tournament in Madison Square Garden. So to do wrestling the main event at Madison Square Garden, to pull up in front of the Garden as a young man and see your name up there in lights at Madison Square Garden versus Andre the Giant, I think it was a double whammy. Not only was I main event at the Garden, but I was the main event with Andre the Giant. That was been the highlight of my career. I was never world champion or tag team champion, intercontinental champion, anything like that. Never a big spot at WrestleMania. The highlight of my career was being with the Giant, a sold-out Madison Square Garden show.
A huge thanks to Hacksaw Jim Duggan, WWE Hall of Famer, Global Force Wrestling Zone. Thank you for coming on the show. Tell the fans where they can support you on Twitter and everywhere else, man.
Sure, yeah. The Twitter is official Hacksaw, and of course, I'm only 500,000 people behind Piper, so I'm closing in on them. And Facebook is official Hacksaw Jim Duggan. And, of course, my book just came out. It came out a little over a year ago now, I guess. Hacksaw, the Jim Duggan story, which is a positive look at wrestling. I've been doing it 35 years now. I've been with my wife 30 years. I never had to go to rehab for booze or drugs. I put 2 daughters through college. It's been a good business for me. And I'm tired of hearing everybody saying, "Well, it's got such, so many guys have, high death rate, high drug rate, high alcoholism rate, divorce rate." Yeah, it's a tough business, but there's also people that are successful in our business. Piper, Tito Santana, myself. So there's 2 sides to every coin, but people just like the car wreck. But before I go, do one with me, guys. Hey! Always makes you feel good, fellas.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, and keep your eye on Global Force. They got the right idea, and they're moving in the right direction.
Great. Thank you very much, sir. Good luck moving forward.
Thank you.
Thanks, fellas. Take care.